Hello everybody, Dragon47 here. How is it going with you guys? So today, we're actually going to be doing our first video in the series where we dive in and talk about the individual Pokemon. We're going to be focusing on what makes them strong, what their counters are, what their movesets can be, what use they actually have in the official Great League, and even more importantly, how to build a team comp with them. And for today's episode, we're going to be talking about the man, the flying toilet himself, one of my favorite Pokemon in the Great League, Pelipper. Now, Pelipper is a really, really fun Pokemon to use. Personally, I love using the team comp of Pelipper, Registeel, and Galarian Stunfisk. I know it's kind of just a basic one, but it's just such a good team comp. It's been good for such a long period of time. It really, really is just a really nice thing to have. And the capabilities and things that you can do with Pelipper is honestly endless, right? So the main reason you run Pelipper is because he's there to take out Swampert, right? There's not a whole lot of Pokemon that are like grass types or things like that that can really deal with Swampert, but Pelipper actually can tank most of the hits that Swampert can throw because he has resistance to like all of his moves except Sludge Wave, right? And if he's not running the Sludge Wave, then Pelipper pretty much just has a free dub against him. It keeps Shadow Swampert and regular Swampert at bay, which is really, really huge. And that's kind of the main reason people run Pelipper is because Pelipper isn't really known for that water like most people think he is, even though he throws a lot of weather balls. Most of his attacks, honestly, are from the air and deal flying damage, which also makes him really, really good into Medicham and Scrafty. I love running Pelipper into Medicham and Scrafty because it just gives me a free dub against those fighters. And it also does really good against Galarian Stunfisk with the Weather Balls, and it does a whole lot more with Alolan Ninetales. It has a hard time against Altaria, Noctowl, Umbreon, bigger flyers than it because they have more bulk. It's also a tad bit difficult to deal with Umbreon in particular because it just has a whole lot of stuff going for it. It can be difficult to deal with Trevenant, but I haven't honestly seen a whole lot of Trevenant, so I'm not worried about it. If you're running Pelipper, more than half the time you're using it for a lead or you're using it for a safe charge. The moves that you're going to be running most of the time are Wing Attack, Weather Ball, and Hurricane. Hydro Pump can be good because it gives you an out to and Water Gun. They kind of give you outs to some of the tougher Pokemon to try and beat. And Blizzard is kind of nice because it helps you win against those flyer matchups. But honestly, the moves that you generally want to run include Wing Attack, Weather Ball, and Hurricane because those tend to be the moves that he can get to the fastest. And for that reason, I believe those are the stronger moves. Now let's get straight right on into the gameplay. So I'm going to lead out the gate with Pelipper, and they are going to throw in a Shadow Skarmory. Now, in my opinion, I do believe that Shadow Skarmory is slightly worse than the original because you lose out on the extra bulk that it's supposed to have. Although the damage increase is kind of nice, I farm a little bit of energy on Pelipper and then swap into Registeel. The reason I do this is because I know Registeel can win into Skarmory, and I want to save energy on it. He makes a throw, probably a Sky Attack if I had to guess, because he's not going to throw a Brave Bird. Oh, I was wrong. It was a Flash Cannon. I eat the hit, and we continue persevering, and they throw in an Umbreon. I throw Focus Blast and attempts to hit it. They do end up shielding this one, if I am not mistaken, but because they threw Umbreon in, that tells me that they're hiding a DPS for one, because they're running double tank DPS like I am, and for two, that also tells me that the DPS and their team comp that they're currently running probably has something weak to Registeel in the back. So I throw another Focus Blast and manage to pick up the second shield there. That's really huge, because that tells me that with Registeel on lock, I actually can just start rolling the next few hits out, and they're just going to have to take them because there's nothing they can do. I eat the foul play here because Registeel is a bulk monster, and I know he can eat the hits. I actually do end up shielding here because I want to get a shot off with Registeel on the Umbreon because Pelipper does not win the matchup, and I didn't want to dedicate that much energy into Stunfisk knowing that Skarmory is still alive. So I charge up a little bit, and I throw the Focus Blast. It's going to connect and do massive damage to that Umbreon. I still believe I lose to the Umbreon here, but that's okay because he burns his energy on killing my Registeel as opposed to saving it for something else. And I'm totally okay with that because that just tells me that all the extra energy to Pelipper is just going to be even more valuable down the road. I throw in Galarian Stunfisk, and I'm just going to let him eat the hit. Again, like Registeel, Galarian Stunfisk is a bulk monster, so he's just going to eat this foul play. Yep, there it is. And he's just going to keep tinking away. And now they throw in Shadow Skamori. I'm okay with this because even though we're both steel types, I have the faster rock move, and my moves are going to go off a whole lot better. So because he also has the minus 20 defense, I'm also going to be doing a lot more damage with my Rock Slide than I abnormally would. Granted, he has more attack than your average Skamori, but none of Skamori's main attacks are actually that effective on Galarian Stunfisk. So I can just keep eating the hits, and I can keep throwing Rock Slides to the point where eventually Skamori just falls to the ground. Yep, and there goes the Rock Slide, and down goes the Skamori. We'll farm down, Mudshot down. And he's out. The next Pokemon is going to bring back in is Umbreon. I'm just going to throw the Rock Slide in attempts to get rid of the Umbreon out the gate, just because I want to save even more energy for Pelipper in case he did have a fighter in the back. And I actually learned that it wasn't a fighter in the back, it was an Altaria, which made me realize I had to swap into Pelipper out the gate because I needed Pelipper to be able to deal some chip damage to Altaria. I know Stunfisk wins against Altaria, but his health is already so low. So I needed to dedicate everything I could from Pelipper to damage the Altaria as best as I could. I let the Sky Attack go, and I throw the Hurricane. This Hurricane is going to be huge. It's going to deal massive damage to the Altaria, and hopefully with that, it'll be enough to knock it down with a single Rock Slide. I lose Pelipper here. I still have a shield up, though, so even if they have a heavy attack, I'm able to block it. I throw a few more Mud Shots to get some extra energy, and out comes the Rock Slide, and that is a good game to my opponent. GG, and we'll be heading off into the next game here in a few seconds. That was a well-played match. And here we are into the second game. Now, this game was actually really interesting. I made a few mistakes here, and I'll cover them as we go in. So we're going to lead with Pelipper, and they're going to lead with Noctowl. Now, Pelipper actually loses into Noctowl, but what I like to do, and this is for most enemy flyers I run into, I'll count 1, 2, 3. For Noctowl, it's 6. So 4, 5, 6. I will make an attempted catch, and I caught the move. A catch is when you actively try to throw a Pokemon in to eat a move on the swap at the exact same time as their attack. So he's going to throw a Sky Attack, and it's not going to do anything to Registeel. He just eats the hit. And because he keeps Noctowl in, that tells me, again, that he's probably having something weak in the back to Registeel. So I throw a Zap Cannon and attempts to either get a shield or potentially knock out the Noctowl because it's going to do one or the other at this point. And I do, in fact, get the shield. And in comes Scrafty. Now, the neat thing about this is that even though he has a super effective fast attack with Scrafty against Registeel, Registeel in general still wins the matchup. And I know that because he only had him out for a few seconds, this is a power punch, so I don't shield, and I can now throw the Focus Blast. Now, the funny thing about Focus Blast and Registeel is if Scrafty doesn't shield, he gets knocked out. And he doesn't shield, and he gets knocked out. Beautiful, beautiful. That is a free kill right there. Then Noctowl comes back in. At this point, I know that whatever he has in the back is weak to Registeel, but my problem with this is that he's just going to get enough energy to kill Registeel before I can do anything. I'm better off saving my shields and just letting him waste the energy on Registeel, and down he goes. And in comes Pelipper into the Noctowl. I want to save my G-Fisk because G-Fisk just isn't going to do quite as much as I had hoped. I make the mistake right here. I probably should have baited as opposed to actually throwing the Hurricane. That was a good shield by my opponent, but at the same time, we still have a huge shield lead, so I'm not too incredibly worried about it. So I do shield this here because Pelipper is that lead and DPS that you have. He doesn't have a whole ton of bulk to him as opposed to some of the other bulkier birds. So you want to try and keep his health pool at least bare minimum, some decent height. Normally when they're teaming up with that Noctowl, there's like a Lantern or a Medicham in the back. To my surprise, that is not the case. I make an attempted throw here to try and knock out the Noctowl, but he makes a safe swap into Bastiodon, which is incredibly bad for Pelipper. That tells me that Pelipper is going to die, but that's okay because I have Galarian Stunfisk, which is a counter for Bastiodon. And because I have a shield and he has weak Mons, I will actually end up getting the dub here. here are some team comps that I had come up with on the side. They actually have all proven to be pretty good. I like the one at the top the most, and I hope to see you guys in another video. Have a great day.